It's Ron John with Successful Open Relationships. Here's how you can objectively deserve your relationship. Now, Ron, what does it mean to objectively deserve your relationship? I want to revisit that in a few seconds, but let's go have an overview of why this is important for you. Remember that relationships come in two fashions generally. Number one is that it's taken as granted. Now, overwhelmingly, virtually everybody in their relationships take their relationship as granted to them. Take the style of relationship which is granted. How does that occur? Remember that being and therefore feeling taken for granted is the death knell of every loving relationship. Tragically, this is the form in which relationships come in, taking the format of I grant myself exclusively to you in exchange for your granting yourself exclusively to me, which results in being taken for granted. And do you know the result of being taken for granted? Of course, you feel taken for granted. And once you feel taken for granted, it is the death of your relationship. So let's go back. What's the second fashion which relationships come in? And that is to be merited. Very few people merit the relationship that they have, or at least practice it in this way. Now, people are going to merit what they have in their relationship, which is why most relationships don't work out. Do you understand? It is a funny irony. When you don't practice your relationship based on merit, you merit what you get from the relationship, which is not good things. But once you start practicing meriting your relationship, putting that into your behavior, in your psychology, I want to merit my relationship. How do I merit my relationship? In other words, how do I deserve my relationship more and more? And then you're going to start deserving better and better things in your relationship. And this is why it's important that you pay attention. It's because if you want to deserve better things in your relationship, better behaviors from your partner, then you want to ask yourself the question, how can I deserve my relationship better? Now, in the beginning, I talked about how to objectively deserve your relationship. Well, this is why this is important. To be objective is to have something that occurs in nature, whether or not it's being observed. Have something objectively happen is without its happening outside of observers' biases, observers' morals and ethics. That is what it is to be objective. Objectively, if you hop or jump or skip, you're gonna fall down into the earth based on the gravity pull. It has nothing to do with what you think, nothing to do with subjective. It just occurs by nature. Now, the reason why this is important delineation when you think about deserving is because a lot of people has connotations when it comes to deserving of their own ethics, own biases, and own morals. But to have something as objective, observing something objectively is outside of morals, biases, perspectives, observations, or ethics. You understand? But let me give you an example. If I were to drive out right now and I get hit immediately when I'm pulling out of the parking lot, I get hit by a big truck going 100 miles per hour. I don't know how that's going to happen, but it does. A lot of people are going to say, he did not deserve that. A lot of people are going to say, this is so tragic, he doesn't deserve that. And I would agree with you, presuming that I'll be the one dying or being put in a hospital. But not objectively, it occurs. It occurred. It has no subjective connotations of whether it's good or whether it's bad. It just happened. Do I deserve it? Objectively? Well, anyone who goes out into the world risks things. If you go out and drive into the road, you risk getting into an accident. If you go out and walk into the street, you risk things happening to you. Even my sitting here right now, just existing, risks me getting hurt. Perhaps a random bullet flies through my window and hits me. Completely random, very, 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 very low chance of that occurring. But can it happen? It could. Would I objectively deserve it? Well, just by living, I risk getting hurt. Do you understand? Every day you take risks. It's just a matter of how much risk you take. So, leaving that alone for now, we talked about how to become attractive has little or less to do with how you look depending on who you are, and more to do with how compelling you are, how people gravitate towards you because of who you are as a person. If you haven't watched my previous video on being attractive, it's really important that you see that. It's the previous one to this on my timeline. Now, number 3, what are the attractants? What are the things that you can endeavor to do to become an attractive person? Number 1 thing you have to do is you have to be compelling. If there were anything you need to learn from me this year, it's this. For you to become attractive and for you to become deserving or deserve the relationship or have a relationship based on merit, you want to be compelling. What is it to be compelling? Compel is a word from Latin, from 2 words, cum, which is together, peller, which is driven. People are driven towards you to be compelling. How do you drive people towards you? You want to be a reasonable person. To be reasonable is to operate based on reason. Do you understand? When you operate on reason, you're a reasonable person. When you provide other people a reason to do things with you, you are beginning your journey of becoming compelling. So, how does that work out in a relationship? Rather than take your partner for granted, take anything that they do for granted, whether you've been in together for a month or a year or 5 years or 10 years, never take them for granted. Be compelling. Give them good reason to do things with you every single time. The reason they should be in bed with you is because they want to be in bed with you, not because there's only one bed or that they're obligated to be in that bed with you. The reason they do anything with you, have sex with you, is because they want to have sex with you rather than because it's the only bed that you're sharing, because you're sleeping in the same bedroom. It's because you're the only person they're having sex with, that they can have sex with. How do you do that? You ensure that they have options. You ensure that they have options of other places they can be sleeping in. You ensure that they have options to other people they can be having sex with. And you happily provide that choice. And only when that choice exists can you be expectant that their being with you is because they want to be with you. The final thing is become 2 final things. Number 1 is become empathetic. Recognize what they want, what they desire, what they fear, what they dislike, what their boundaries are, and operate your relationships based on that. Not just take for granted because you're projecting what you imagine they might like. And finally, number 3, operate your relationship fundamentally on wanting for your beloved's happiness intrinsic to your own, being non-judgmentally accepting, being openly communicating, facilitating that. I'll talk about those 3 things in the next video. Bye.